I believe Half-Life 3 will be released in a year or two, so I decided to catch up with this series and decided to play both Half-Life games to see if they're really worth the hype, or is it just nostalgia? And after 28 years, in this video I'll give an answer, is it just nostalgia or are they really that good? I decided not to be vague about it and decided to play Half-Life 1 too, to get the full picture. So we first will talk about Half-Life 1 and then we'll get to Half-Life 2. Half-Life 1 is the oldest game that I've ever played, a game from the previous millennium. The oldest game that I have played previously was a 2001 game Gothic. Half-Life 1 though was released in 1998. And I was really curious to compare an almost 30 years old game with modern games. So when I first booted the first Half-Life, I got a feeling that the game is flexing on me with how technological the game is. And yes, it might seem strange if you look at the screen, but it is true. The game was trying to show off how many things were moving, the animations of objects. It was trying to show off the lighting, the objects you can interact with. Every character had voice dialogues. Many objects were destructible and not only for show but for gameplay purposes. Maybe it is just me, but it is the feeling that I got, even before the actual gameplay started. Long story short, we conducted some teleportation experiment. Things went wrong and some aliens started to invade Earth. We get a gun and thus the shooter part of the game begins. And at first the game was really easy. You just keep your distance from the aliens and shoot. A little later we get some aliens that shoot lightning at long range. So not only we need to keep our distance, but now we have to use corners to our advantage. Often aliens just teleport right in front of you or even behind you. And what is interesting is that even though the game is old, it still requires good reaction time and positioning. I expected the game to be a lot slower, but it is not the case. A little later, aside from the aliens that are trying to kill us, we also get the military that is just gunning down and tries to clear everything in the laboratory, aliens and scientists, and subsequently us. And thus the hell begins. Previously to that, the game was quite fun, but the soldiers have a lot of HP and they also shoot at a distance. And quite frankly, they also have literally aimbot laser guns. The gameplay transforms into a trade of HP game. Kill the enemy before they kill you. Also, they love spamming grenades, so it is often even hard to come close to a corner to start shooting at them. From here you will save a lot because you will die a lot. Plus now they send even stronger aliens with a lot of HP. And also sometimes you are fighting helicopters and tanks. So yeah, it is rough out there. Now, shooting gameplay aside, since it is an old game, there is no hand holding. There are no markers on the map, there are no objectives or even a diary. On the one hand, it was kinda nice. The last game that I have played that had some missions without hand holding was the first Kingdom Come Deliverance, which again was kinda nice and immersive, but on the other hand I would stuck sometimes and would not know what to do and where to go. For example, there was this barricade that I needed to destroy to progress the game. And I did try to destroy it. I was hitting it many times, like around 20 times, and it wouldn't get destroyed, so I thought it must be indestructible and I need to find another way. I ended up looking it up on the internet and it turns out that I needed to keep hitting it even more. 20 times was not enough. Now, it is also worth mentioning that the game allows you to softlock yourself, meaning that if you do something stupid you will have to reload. Now, to conclude it all about the first game. Was it great? For a 30 years old game, I have to admit that the game exceeded my expectations, but can I recommend it for playing to a modern gamer? No, there are better games. The game did age quite badly. But Half-Life 2 on the other hand is a whole different story. It was released in 2004, which means it is 22 years old, but it did age like a fine wine. Sure, the graphics are not the prettiest by modern standards, but I would not call the game ugly. Frankly, I was shocked how good the game looks. Sure, the game received some graphical improvements throughout the years. It didn't look that good on release, but it does not matter. What matters is how the game looks now. And actually there's an RTX edition which looks even better than this. So the game nowadays looks great. Half-Life 2 was released only 6 years after Half-Life 1. But again I felt that the game was flexing on me. Again, a lot of moving objects. Now you could actually pick up any object, move it and throw it. A lot of NPCs, a lot of movement and animations. Actually, that's what Half-Life 2 does great. Something is constantly happening around you. In short, Valve is really good at staging. In this sense, Half-Life 2 is similar to Rockstar games. I discussed it in my Rockstar Formula video, how Rockstar is good at staging. The link will be in the description and in the comment section. In Half-Life 2 case, it manifests, for example, when guards are questioning citizens. Then you have a chase when you are being chased by the guards. They're actively blocking your path while actually leading you to the right path. Later on, they're constantly trying to ambush you. So again, it is good staging. You not only move from point A to point B and killing NPCs along the way, but something is constantly happening around you. And is what Rockstar games and Half-Life 2 have in common. Yes, they are scripted events, but they require your attention and reaction, so it does make you feel that the world of the game has good simulation, even when it is not true. Now about the combat, or the shooting if you will. It feels much more modern than Half-Life 1, primarily because the bullets almost always fly into the crosshair unlike it was in the first game, which contributes massively to the gameplay quality of life. It is much easier to make headshots, and consequently fights in Half-Life 2 feel much less like HP trade and much more like modern shooters. That being said, the game doesn't have a modern recoil mechanic. When shooting, automatic weapons move the crosshair and the screen, and you can compensate that with the movement of your mouse to shoot accurately. While shooting an SMG, the bullets just fly at random. They don't even have a spray pattern like in Counter-Strike games. They don't go in the center of the crosshair. So even though I said that in Half-Life 2 the bullets land much more accurately, I'm not talking about automatic weapons. With automatic weapons you just don't shoot at range. Now to conclude this section, the shooting in this game is much more accurate, much more fluid, and it feels much better and much more modern than in the first game. Now, aside from being a simple shooter like for example Wolfenstein, the game has unique mechanics. Like if you have a pistol and an SMG, it is not really a big difference in mechanics. It is basically a projectile shooter, but Half-Life 2 has much more. For example, the first toy you get is a gravity gun. It can pull objects to you and shoot them at a target. With this gun you can for example shoot different objects at enemies, like for example bricks, but the effect is different depending on the object that you shoot. For example, you can shoot a circle saw blade, and then it will cut through a horde of enemies at once. Or you can shoot explosive barrels, which transforms this weapon basically into a grenade launcher. Again, this gun is not just another version of a pistol, but a whole new mechanic. Aside from the gravity gun, we also get a laser-guided weapon. Again, not just a projectile, but a new mechanic. Or for example, controlling 4 alien insects. It is not even a gun, it is just a mechanic. You get the idea. Half-Life 2 is not just a shooter purely about guns, but it also gives a large variety of gameplay. Now, I think it is time to talk about the world that we interact with. First, the game features a lot of mini puzzles. It is not like Resident Evil puzzles. It is often space puzzles. How to get to a certain point. You can see an example on your screen. They are not very hard puzzles, but it is probably for the best. They are very intuitive and don't interrupt your gameplay flow for very much, but they provide gameplay variety. Now, another feature of the game is that you often get a new transportation vehicle. At first it was some kind of a boat, then it was a car. Frankly, the game reminds me a lot of Metro Exodus. Maybe because of the semi-open wasteland world, maybe because of the scrap metal car, maybe because of the crossbow, or maybe all of it together. It is just the vibe that I got. Now, to summarize it all, can I recommend Half-Life 2 to a modern gamer?
Absolutely.
I would say that the game didn't age at all. Yes, maybe it doesn't have Death Stranding 2 graphics, and I would prefer the game to have modern recoil mechanic, but overall there's nothing wrong with the game. It is very enjoyable single-player shooter. It provides a lot of different mechanics, unique challenges for you to figure out. And unlike in the first game, I was never in a situation where I didn't know what to do or where to go. I never looked up anything on the internet. The game guides you perfectly without any quest marks and stuff like that. It is a very well built game, and now I totally see why people for decades were craving Half-Life 3. As I said at the beginning of the video, I was interested to see how will it hold up to modern single-player shooters. For example, to Cyberpunk 2077. I was surprised to see that it actually holds up pretty good. Both games, aside from just being shooters, have unique mechanics that makes them special. The shooting part was also not bad, and even though Cyberpunk gives more freedom and side quests, I think for a 21 years old game, Half-Life 2 exceeded my expectations. If you didn't play it, I definitely recommend. Aside from that, I've made a similar video about Cyberpunk, or for example about Sekiro, or for example a Cyberpunk critique. A video about the legacy of France in the video game industry. I have tops, analytics, discussions, critiques, everything you ever wanted. So subscribe now to not lose it and check out my other videos. See you there.